Very pleasant good morning, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Morning Briefing. I'm Jeff DeForest, and that is one Mike Lubie Lubitz. We missed you guys yesterday, but it's not as if there wasn't a lot of sensational activity that we have to go over today, and good to be with you. We're going to continue to proliferate a very unpopular opinion here on this show today, and I think we got more than enough validation to verify that our thoughts are really far more on the money than anybody else's. And speaking of money, and the conclusion would be, just to give you an idea, that soccer sucks. We know this, people. It just flat out sucks. Now, the only way to make it interesting would be betting on it.
Yes.
And even then, it's really going to be a struggle. But the place to go would be Bet Online, your number one source for all your sports betting needs this season. From baseball, have the All-Star game tonight. A lot of activity on that, prop bets, all kinds of things. Golf, the Open, formerly known as the British Open, the tournament formerly known as the British Open. I say, old chap, who do you think's going to win this one? You can bet that, and that's a great bet. Soccer, right on through the top fights, UFC, MMA, boxing. They have it all, every stat, every matchup, even live odds and spreads while the games and the events are in progress. When the game's over, head on over to the online casino. You can play poker, you can play blackjack, and indulge in over 150 various slot games that they have for you. Head to the website today to get in on all the action. Use the promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV, and that'll entitle you to a 50% free bet credit on your first deposit up to $250. Big ones. Bet Online. The game starts here. That game should have never started. The Copa Americas I'm talking about, it happened right here in our hometown, Lubie, and it just validated a point that we've been trying to make, emphasizing on this show forever. And I'm going to say this. I tried to give it an unbiased, fair shot. Okay. There wasn't a lot of activity. Most of the baseball had shut down on Sunday night, so I'm flipping channels, trying to find something. Couldn't find any reruns of Deadliest Catch, and sure enough, there it is. The Copa Americas, the final, with Messi leading the way for his Argentinian team against just a crazy bunch of cats from Colombia, and it's happening in our own backyard at Hard Rock Stadium. So I get a text from a friend who says, "Hey, are you watching this? This is the most amazing thing. Have you ever seen a crowd like this?" And I flipped to the game, and no game is happening. And I'm wondering, they got Alexi Lalas and all of these other former soccer players who essentially had the prime of their career like 40 years ago. Nobody knows. This would be like digging up the scooter to talk about the sport. What the hell is going on? And they have all this analysis about these guys have to do this and they have to do that. And I thought, you know what, let me watch this thing. Because I always felt that soccer fans were kind of the Jehovah's Witnesses of sports fans. They were trying to convince you that something that you had no interest in whatsoever, what was going to save your life and kind of be the compelling thing that you live for as long as you're left here on this earth. And they would knock on your door on Sunday morning, these soccer fans, and go, and you're thinking, what is this? They'd hand you a copy of Awake magazine and tell you, hey, you really ought to be watching the Copa America's final tonight. So anyway, Louis, I give this a shot. And finally, they get the game started after a riot broke out. I've seen this before, though, and a long time ago, I guess about maybe 20 years ago now, 15, something like that. I got an assignment from a boxing promoter named Cedric Kushner out of New York. South African guy, was a big-time promoter, had a lot of big fighters. And he calls me and he says, Jeff, I have two fights for you, one in Detroit and one in Columbia. And I thought, okay, Columbia, South Carolina. I always wanted to go there. Everybody says it's a really nice town. But it was Barranquilla, Colombia. And I remember going from the airport to the hotel, which we were kind of on a spiffier side of town where the people that were involved in the fight event were staying. And you literally had to go through the streets where people, there were like thousands of people just in the streets. I don't want to say third world or anything, but, the picture, it was a scene right out of Woody Allen's Bananas. It really was. These Colombian fans are crazy. And then their guy wins the fight that we were calling. And thank God he won, because we only got bombarded with bottles and cans at ringside. I'm sure they allowed the people to bring explosives into these arenas. Now we've seen soccer stadiums in Colombia just go and get flattened by crowds that were out of control. And sure enough, they have you ever seen anything like this? You've been in town. I'm sure you've seen the clips of this now.
Here,
where the fans just storm through the gate. It happened to me Yeah, I mean, it happened to me a long time ago when I was at a fight at the Olympic Auditorium. Pepino Cuevas was fighting, and they had like 20,000 people outside that wanted to come in, and he eventually just crushed the security gate.
Mm,
And so the 20,000 people that didn't have tickets were all in the arena. This is what happened with these Colombian fans.
yep.
At Hard Rock Stadium, usually a pretty decent place when it comes to security, Louis. I always feel pretty safe there, don't you?
Well, the Hard Rock Stadium didn't secure it. That's the problem. The Copa wanted control. So Hard Rock ceded control, which was a stupid ass move because you don't know the facility. They literally have stuff, if not every day, year round at that place. And they've never, that place has been around since the 80s. Now, I don't think they've ever had an incident of any kind there.
No, they've had everything. Mayweather, Jake Paul fights. They've had Formula One races, soccer games. All kinds of crazy stuff has gone on there. Baseball used to be played there.
Swift, and you know the Swifties are fucking crazy. My wife's one of them. Like they've had everything, every kind of event there that could possibly lead to something, and not had one event inside that stadium go wrong.
No.
And the Copa wanted to take over, and that's why if you notice, if you're hearing the backlash, they don't talk about the Hard Rock. They've actually been really consistent in saying, "Oh, the Copa, the Copa, the Copa," because it was not the Hard Rock. The Hard Rock was not in charge of security, and it was a fucking disaster. The only time I've ever been in something like that was
It looked like the January 6th Capitol raid. It really did. I was waiting to see some cop with his arm caught in the door, and they arrested a bunch of people, including like the head of the Colombian contingent, the head of Colombian soccer. And then the game itself, I mean, and this was the thing that got to me, and it proved my point once and for all that this is a sport only to be enjoyed by the criminally insane. But first of all, they cram. It was supposed to be 60,000, but it ended up being like 80,000 because all these people ran in there through the air conditioning vents and they're climbing the walls there. They're dropping in out of helicopters. It was amazing the different methods that they used to penetrate the stadium there, even though they had no tickets. And then people got shut out that paid like 12 grand for a ticket to this thing.
People traveled, bought tickets months ago before they even knew who was going to be in it. Because remember, it was a tournament. You didn't know Colombia or Argentina would be in it. And they got here and they had tickets in their hand and they were not allowed in.
Not in, man. They're getting arrested. They're going away in handcuffs with like 12 grand worth of tickets in their hand. Some little kid broke his arm. It was a pretty sick scene that took place. But then the game starts eventually. And I'm looking at this for a while, and I'm watching. They're going back and forth. Colombia was kind of enjoying some scoring opportunities early. The goal is the size of a 3-car garage, one of those things that you see some guy has a mansion going, who the fuck needs a 3-car garage? And they can't find anywhere. I mean, these shots are going nowhere near, and from point blank range. Even Messi has one early in the game. And I'm watching, and I'm thinking to myself, this is one dumbass fucking game. And the 80,000 people are in an uproar the entire time, and there's literally nothing happening. And time is ticking off the clock. Now they had any number of guys go down, and they're on the ground, and the trainers came on the field, and they're treating them. What is it? Is that Freon they spray on these guys? What is that? What the hell is it? I mean, some kind of freezing element. They used to use that in baseball, but they don't anymore, right? A guy would get hit by a pitch. Oh, here he comes out with the freezing spray. So they're treating these guys on the ground, and literally, it was as if they were treating a guy for a stroke or a heart attack. And then they get to the end of the half after we had about 10 of these injuries, and they had 1 minute of time on.
Yeah.
So all of that time that was ticking off the clock, I mean, literally nothing is happening. A dumb game like I've never seen, where you make all kinds of moves. You finally get the ball to midfield, and then what do? You just surrender. You throw in a towel. You kick it back to the goalie, and he kicks it right back to you. And you're asking yourself, why am I watching this? What is the point of it? Lubie, I don't know. You have the tendency to be influenced, Svengali'd by the women in your life. And didn't you, weren't you with a soccer fan at one point in time?
My wife, their whole family super into it. Look, a girl I dated in college was Costa Rican, and that was how I really got into the World Cup. It would be on, and I never really watched it. And when they would have these watch parties, and then my buddies would come over with her friends. And even after that was back in the 20, that's all the way. It's like 2002. I don't know. Whatever World Cup was around that time. And from that point on, I got into World Cups. I would watch the World Cups, but that was all I would watch is World Cup. And my ex-wife, her family, they're from the island. and they're big into soccer. So they watched Euros and Premier League and all this shit. So I would watch Euros and I would watch World Cup, but I hadn't watched a Euro since like 2006. I mean, whatever, again, the last one around then. So what's the 2024? So it's every 2 years.
I'm dumbfounded, though. I mean, how can anybody find this game interesting in any way? I mean, it's crazy. Even a play Messi gets injured on, it was like a totally stupid, meaningless play.
Well, that's my problem is after just watching hockey and the bloodbath that those games are, look, the sports are very similar in the scoring, but the action feels different, at least to me. One sport, these men are, no matter what happens, now flopping has sort of started there. Like if you watch the Oilers, they seem to flop a little, which is weird. You would never use that term in hockey.
You think Jerry Lewis invented the game.
But even when they flop in hockey, it's still, there's contact. Like, and they'll have broken bones, broken everything, keep playing. Soccer's the opposite. Soccer, there's never contact. Guys are always flopping. And then even when they get hurt, you're like, how the fuck did he get hurt? Like nothing.
I like guys in agony, as if literally somebody had taken a machete and hit him right in the balls. And and then 2 seconds later, he's flying down the sideline there because his team got the ball back. It's insane. This is for the criminally insane. You guys are crazy. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to burst your bubble here. There are a lot of things. People believe in things that they don't understand, man. It's Stevie Wonder time. There is superstitious writing on the wall. I don't get it. I watched it. I try to be unbiased. I'm watching this game for a while, and it took me about 15 minutes into it, and I'm saying, what the fuck am I doing? An hour and 12 later of what was supposed to be playing time, but what wasn't the worst thing as a kid when you were in like some basketball league and they used running time instead of just stopping the clock when the ball went out of bounds? The ball would be down the school hallway, and the clock is still running. You ended up playing like 3 minutes of every quarter. And it was a disaster. And even with this running time, this is the most boring. If you want, it's amazing. It only takes an hour and a half for this game. The highlight, of course, was Shakira. She shook it up. But why did the Colombians not like Shakira? It seems like there was some controversy about the fact the Colombian contingent, who had just rioted and trashed a stadium that, as you said, had a history of just being the pinnacle, the absolute example of how you would want to run security. And it took them 1 second to just trash the whole fucking thing. But they were down on Shakira. Speaking of which, we had the home run derby last night, Lubie. I'm not inclined to watch it anymore. The home run derby, which used to fascinate me. I grew up with the original home run derby on TV. And if you watch those shows, I mean, there wasn't a whole lot going on there, except that you had like Harmon Killebrew taking on Willie Mays one-on-one. And they had the thing about you got the 3 outs and you had to hit the ball out of the park. And then these superstar ball players would come up and very humbly do an interview with the host. And in between go, shucks, I thought I had that one out of the park. I mean, you're talking to the Mick. And it was great. And people really loved it. And they brought it back. And now they've enhanced the concept to, of course, be more reflective of today's Las Vegas style of show business. But I lost it for the home run derby for a long time. Last night I found a perfect strategy, which was watch the first guy.
Okay.
And that became a little bit ponderous after a while. And it was Bohm, the third baseman for the Phillies. Okay. And he had a nice little run there, and it was entertaining. And I thought, really? I mean, there's still like 7 more guys to go in the first round.
Well, the problem is, too, I don't know baseball like I used to. Like, when I was growing up, you'd have Barry Bonds, you'd have Ken Griffey Jr., you'd have Frank Thomas. You'd have guys that are, like, while playing already all-time greats.
Yeah.
I don't know. But look, there's the Sotos and Judge, like I've heard of, but it's just, it doesn't.
But they weren't in it. It was all Scribinis, yeah.
Okay, so that's the other thing is the level of, it's like the dunk contest where like it was important who was doing it as much as what they were doing. And now you don't get that level of athlete. Baseball's not as big as it was. Like they're not household names anymore. And you're not even getting the guy that could be a household name.
No, I mean, the Dodger who won the home run derby, you're thinking, okay, Ohtani won it. He was nowhere near the place.
Yes,
unbelievable. He was, at the dog track with his interpreter. But the highlight turned out to be a lowlight. Ingrid Andress, a singer I'm not familiar with because this is also an unpopular opinion, like my opinion on soccer, Lubie. And my sincere belief, people, is that if no matter who ends up running the government, their first movement should be to ban all country music.
Oh, God.
Country music is ruining American society. At the root of all evil is country music, my friend. The dead dogs and the grandmother and the girl that left you, all of this stuff. So Ingrid Andress, who is a 4-time nominated Grammy Award contestant, has been nominated for 4 Grammys. 32-year-old country singer, is supposed to have some big hits. I'm not familiar with her. She got Carl Lewis, Roseanne Barr off the hook. I mean, this was the worst rendition of the national anthem. Maybe Robert Goulet's off the hook for forgetting the words at the Ali Liston rematch in Lewiston, Maine, where in the middle of the song he goes, "And the Rockets." Hey, somebody, what's the next line? Total fucking butcher job by this guy. A great singer too, big baritone voice. He would have been great at doing the national anthem. And so anyway, yeah. I mean, this was. It sounded like she took singing lessons from Yoko Ono. It really did. It was one of the worst, if not the worst, rendition of the national anthem in history. All-Star game is tonight. A good friend of ours, Lubie, sends me a text and says. They may win by 18 runs, but does this not look like the worst ever National League All-Star lineup in the history of Major League Baseball? You got what? You got Ketel Marte, Diamondbacks, hitting 292. Not bad. Ohtani, legitimate. Trey Turner's having a good year for the Phillies, and they're winning. Bryce Harper. William Contreras, not exactly Johnny Bench. Kristen Yelich has won what? 2 MVPs, Kristen Yelich?
One and was on his way. I think I heard like with a month left, so he missed enough games where he didn't get it that year.
Yeah, Bohm, 295 hitter, 11 home runs for the Phillies. The guy that won the home run derby, Teoscar Hernandez of the Dodgers, is in there. And then Jerickson Profar of the Padres, having a good year, but lifetime 245 hitter, not exactly the kind of stuff that makes you forget about a lineup like this, Lubie. How about this one? 1966. Leading off, Willie Mays. Batting second, right field, Roberto Clemente.
Oh, good. I mean, yeah.
Batting third, Henry Aaron. Hitting in the cleanup spot, it'll be Willie McCovey from the left side. Mr. Cub Ron Santo batting fifth. Joe Torre is going to hit sixth. Jim Lefevre, great second baseman, going to bat seventh. And in the eighth spot, Chico Cardenas of the Cincinnati Reds there. Unbelievable. Was he a Cincinnati Red? I think he was, Chico Cardenas. Probably played for the Reds at least at one time. Anyway, yeah, so a lot of people are trashing the All-Star game and saying that it needs to be revised. I don't know. What can they really do to fix it, Libby? I'm not sure you really need to do anything except maybe just have a better game.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. They already bastardized it that one time for like over a decade where they made the World Series matter about a game that didn't matter, which was a fucking joke.
Yeah.
Just stop tinkering. You're not going to make it better. It is what it is. Have it, and whoever watches it watches. I now that I know it's on, my wife's out of town. I'll probably watch a little bit of it. What's tonight, right? I'll probably watch a little bit of it tonight. Now that I know it's on.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. Again, you just went through a list of players. I don't know.
You might want to see Skeens, Paul Skeens of the Pirates strike out the side in the first inning. It's possible.
The problem is, again, with the pitchers, they don't go as long as they used to go, and it's just, I don't know, it's lost a lot of the luster just across the board.
Remember, didn't you go with us? We copped some freebie tickets to a friend of ours to the All-Star game that was here in Miami.
I worked.
Oh, you were there. That was the most boring baseball game I've ever attended in my life.
The home run derby was great. Because they had Big Stanton and all these guys ran it, and then the next night the All-Star game just sucked. It wasn't. You thought at least it'd be an offensive explosion. It was the opposite. Like the pitcher.
Oh, I'm glad you mentioned that. By the way, some big betting opportunities here tonight. Naturally, just read a very brilliant. I mean, this included some scientific breakdowns of the percentage of distance that is lost when the roof is open as opposed to closed at the Arlington Stadium there, the Texas Rangers ballpark. And this gentleman says that the game's going under. Very astute handicapping. I mean, really, you got into Pythagorean theorem on this thing. So expect an explosion of offense tonight. That'll that'll light up the board because I'm thinking this guy's probably dead wrong. And then we have to get in tune with this by tomorrow. You're getting 25-1 on my man Ludwig Oberg in the Open, which gets underway this week, Libby. 25-1 on this cat.
Where did he end up? Because I remember you talking about
he tailed off a little bit. I'm not sure where he actually finished, but all of a sudden it did a little vanishing act from the leaderboard.
Okay, I couldn't find his name. I'm like, all right, so who gives a shit that he was good the first 2 days? It's like you said, he has a long way to go, and he didn't hit that long way.
It's an agonizing odyssey when you're betting golf. Your guy could be up 10 shots in the first round, and you still end up getting stiffed.
25-1 doesn't feel like enough. Like he's a guy that you would just take a shot on because fuck it, why not? But some of the favorites get maybe not 25-1, but you'll get 15 to 20 to 1.
Oh, you're getting 14 to 1 on Scotty Scheffler in this thing.
The favorite
Yes,
is 14 to 1. Then some dude that is going to fade away. I want way higher odds. And I'm not saying it's not worth putting money on him at a higher, but for 25-1, I'd rather get a guy that has a really good, like, you could get the Rory's. Rory may be really high now, but
McIlroy's 18 to 1. You're getting a pretty good price on that.
Just one.
Think about that. You're getting like 20 to 1 on a guy that most people would say right away, okay, yeah, it's one of these two guys. 50 to 1 shots are. I mean, this is very much in play. If you were going to bet on anything,
that's what I
go to Bet Online and bet on this Open, this formerly known as the British Open. Because you never can tell. I mean, this guy Harmon that won it last year came out of nowhere and took the claret jug. He's running around with it around the United States as if it was the Stanley Cup, this guy he was celebrating. All right, we got to run. A lot of fun. We have the All-Star game tonight. Who are you taking, Lubie? The worst National League lineup in history. Is that possible? Worst National League lineup in history.
What's the AL lineup? I mean, I'm sure it'll be the same for me. I don't know any of the players. AL, I guess the AL always wins. Doesn't the AL always find a way?
The AL lineup, I mean, is respectable, right? Just having Soto and Judge in there is enough for Yankee fans, that's for sure. But they have legitimate players. I don't think this guy Kwan that's leading off is hitting like 360 or something. He's become the modern day Louis Arise. He's doing that. Look, it's at least somewhat representative of guys that are having a good season made the team, as opposed to, I guess, the usual names, which I'm not sure that there are much more than that. You do have guys that were left off that normally would have been included just because of the body of work of their careers. So, maybe there was a little bit more leaning towards who's actually doing well this year. All right, we got to run. I'm going to give you the American League again, Lubie? Why not?
They usually always win.
Yeah. American League, high-scoring game. All right, for Mike Lubie, I'm Jeff DeForest. Thanks so much for tuning in here on NoFilter.net and the various other platforms that carry the show. We will see you tomorrow. And two things, people. I have to leave you with this. Two things. Soccer sucks. It really does. And country music should be banned. Did you hear anybody mention that at the Republican convention last night? No. Banning of country music, because they're about to ban everything else. At least this would be something that I would be in accord with. All right, we'll see you next time. For Mike Lubie, I'm Jeff DeForest. See you on the next edition of the Morning Briefing.